Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Greetings and salutations. Today you are tuning into the Kevin Jackson Radio Show, and of course I am guest hosting for the day. My name is Brett Segal, otherwise known as the Disgruntled Millennial, but you could refer to me as Mr. the Disgruntled Millennial. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, and patriarchy. Now, if it sounds like I sound a little bit messed up today, that is because I do. I feel like a bag of male sexual extremities has slapped me across the face several times, and I sound a little bit like it too. Today is October 20th. It's a very, very special day for me. It is the day that my father was born. October 20th, 1952. My deceased father was born October 20th, 1952. How did he die, you might ask? Well, he died from hemophilia-related AIDS. Yes, that means he was one of the very few straight men in the 80s who managed to contract AIDS. And, of course, AIDS is a human disease, but let's not fool ourselves into thinking that AIDS doesn't affect the homosexual community more than it does the straight community, and to simply label it as a human disease is a little bit of an oversimplification, especially here in America. Now, on October 20th, every year on October 20th, there are three things that I like to do. The first thing I like to do is think about the fact that it is my dad's birthday, and I like to think about how old he would have been. This year, he would have been 65. I know that because I take my age, which is 35, and I add 30 years because he had me when he was 30. So he would be 65 years old this year. And the second thing that I do is I put a picture of him as my profile picture on Facebook so that everyone knows what a good and thoughtful person I am. To remember that I once had a father, as if. After all, if I didn't put my father's picture on social media, how on earth would liberals know if I am the product of sperm meets egg? I know it is a weird thing to even think to ponder these days, that a human being might be raised in a womb without a sperm meets egg sort of situation, but now it is something that has to be said. It is amazing what constitutes virtue these days. 7,000 people die, and all you do is change your Facebook photograph, and then you feel good about yourself. The third thing I do on October 20th is I call my mom. Okay, that was a little bit misleading. I call my mom almost every day because that is what you do when you were raised without a dad, especially one who didn't voluntarily leave, but one that died. It's sheer numbers. Best case scenario, kids are raised by both biological parents. Sperm meets egg. I know that makes me sound homophobic because no gay or trans people could ever experience what every straight couple in the history of mankind gets to experience. But sorry, I don't know what to tell you other than tough. Life isn't fair. Sometimes you are attracted to someone of the same sex and you can't have kids. Sometimes your parents die. It's tough. Anyway, today I am going to experience the phone call I have with my mom every day on the phone with you, my beloved audience, today, because we actually, we have been discussing something that has been going on recently. And I know I sound like a bag of penne right now, but something that has been going on recently has been pissing me off especially, which is the California law that was just signed into law by the liberal governor of California that says that it is basically now, it's no longer a felony to knowingly and willingly give someone AIDS. To knowingly and willingly give someone AIDS. In other words, look, you are going to have sex with someone. Let's say you're on a second date and you want to have sex. If this person has AIDS and you don't have AIDS, they don't have to tell you if they have AIDS. So they could basically just give you AIDS, and worst case scenario, they spend 6 months in prison. That's it. Nothing like attempted murder like it used to be. Today we are talking to my mother, who sat next to my father, who was dying of AIDS, sat next to him and watched him die back in the 80s. Mom, how are you doing today? October 20th.
I'm doing fine today, Brett. And it's always nice to know that you honor your dad on special days like this one, as well as the day of his death, which will come up in November 19th.
That's right. There's 3 days on which I celebrate his life, and that's his birthday, his death day, and the hallmarky kind of Father's Day kind of thing. You know, I like to keep his memory alive all year round. Let's talk a little bit, Mom, about what it was like realizing, having sat with Dad in 1988. This is a little background information. We're gonna talk a little bit about the background, and then we're gonna get in to the nitty-gritty of what is going on today in California. Mom, tell us a little bit about what it was like receiving the diagnosis that the man you married, who you had just had 3 kids with, was basically going to die in a couple years.
Well, we sat in the doctor's office, and the doctor said, make contingency plans and hope for the best. And that was all that we had to go on. And what was happening back then in 1986, which was when he was diagnosed, was that AIDS was a definite death sentence. There are probably less than a handful, maybe more, who have survived it. But most everyone that we knew back then who had contracted AIDS died from it. And it was like dominoes. It was just an awful time in our country. The president at the time did nothing. People were believing back then that it was a purely gay disease. They talked about quarantining my husband and people who had AIDS and sending them off somewhere to be shut away from society. I mean, this is the way it was back then. Friends were disappearing. In our particular case, though, we were very, very fortunate to have family, a very extended family, that was a wonderful support. And most of our friends, I would say the majority of our friends, were very, very empathetic. And yet there was still fear. The fear was rampant. It was scary. Absolutely.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we come back from our break. We are here with my mom, Ellen Buxtell.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.
Beth Cook Moranville, author of Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope.
Hope, that wonderful, wonderful 4-letter word that you may feel completely out of. I wrote this book to give you great hope. It's not too late. If fetal position is an all too familiar place for you, I understand. If the next 60 seconds are too long, this book is for you. Wherever you are right now, whether you're dealing with divorce or death or sickness, take hope. You are going to make it through this pain. Don't roll your eyes. I've walked this road and I know it. The best is yet to come.
Closer Than Your Breath, a book of hope from author and speaker Beth Cook Moranville, can be found on Amazon.com or Kindle.com. For more information, visit closerthanYourBreath.com or on Facebook at Closer Than Your Breath.